Welcome to Ignite Your Confidence for women in leadership who want to speak up and stand out. I'm your host, Karen Laus. Here you'll get all of the tips and tools that you need to stand out with unshakable confidence. Let's jump into today's episode. Welcome to Ignite Your Confidence for women. Welcome to Ignite Your Confidence for women in leadership who want to speak up and stand out. I'm your host, Karen Laus. You'll find all the tips and tools that you need to stand out with unshakable confidence. Let's dive into today's episode. Welcome to Ignite Your Confidence for women in leadership who want to speak up and stand out. I'm your host, Karen Laus. Here you'll get all of the tips and tools that you need to stand out with unshakable confidence. Let's dive into today's episode. Hello, everybody. How to not be disappointed on Mother's Day. For those of you moms out there and those of you kids of moms, which is pretty much everybody, we want to make sure that we honor our moms or the special women in our lives that are very similar to moms in all the ways that we can that will make them feel celebrated. But especially for those of you that are moms, how to avoid being disappointed on Mother's Day is something we don't talk a lot about. But did you know that 40% of all moms claim that they are disappointed with what they get on Mother's Day? I want to put a change to this. And the number one key is ask for what you want. Let's talk a little bit deeper on this. So I was invited on 2 different stations recently to talk about this, one from Taylor Trakey on KADN and one on ABC Sacramento, Your California Life from Desiree Shepard. And here are some things I want to give you. Basically what I want to do is talk through this in a little bit more detail. You can find this online, of course, if you would like to watch it on the channels that I was on. But let's get down to business here and talk about how does a mom get what she wants on Mother's Day? And you've already heard the lead of the story, and that is to ask. So many of us don't ask. And part of the problem is that we don't know what we want. You've got to decide what we want. Or the other problem is we're so worried about disappointing others. Let's face it, as moms in particular, we have been culturally conditioned. And by the way, I am not a mother to a human. I have 2 wonderful cats that I am a mom to and many people that I nurture in my life, but I have never given birth to another human. Wanted to make sure that I put that out there, but I say the colloquial we when I'm talking here. So when you think about it from moms and also so much related to women, we have been culturally conditioned to take care of everybody else but ourselves. And that is where I say we've got to stop this madness. We need to ask for what we want and claim that that is okay. Too often we say that we don't, we want to look at everybody else and how we want them to feel good and all of those things. And yet, if we think about it, if we go with the statistic, which is based on research, that 40% of mothers say they have ended up disappointed with their Mother's Day, it's really important to make sure that you make your wishes known and that you're properly celebrated. The other thing related to the thoughts here, 40%, imagine all the people that weren't polled. I'm going to guess that percentage is even higher. So that's how a mom gets what she wants on Mother's Day, is to ask. Second, it can feel vulnerable to ask for what we want. And maybe we even feel undeserving. And what we want to talk about is, how does a mom overcome this? First of all, wouldn't it be great if everybody read our minds? That is just not how life works. And yet, many of us tend to have this fantasy around what we want based on what we hope that people will read our minds through for. And if we get caught up in that, we are most likely setting ourselves up always for disappointment. We need to be more comfortable asking, but we've got to recognize that your needs are legitimate. Your need to be celebrated is legitimate. There's a reason why we have birthdays and Mother's Days and graduations and weddings and celebrations of life. All of these things, there's a reason for that. So you deserve to be celebrated as well. One of the things that you can do is take some time to maybe do an affirmation to say, I deserve to have what I want on Mother's Day. Or perhaps you get input from one of your friends. Journal about it. It's always good to get your feelings out on paper. And one of the biggest challenges that I would recommend is go to an actual family member and say, if you feel uncomfortable asking, ask them, is it okay with you if I ask for what I want? That might feel a little bit scary and even a little bit uncomfortable, but wouldn't you rather ask for what you want or ask them to affirm that it's okay with them? Sometimes we have to check these things out with people. So that's the only way that we will really know. It's so empowering when we check in with people on our feelings. Number 3, what's important when asking, or how do I actually make the ask? Be direct. I cannot say that enough. Be direct. None of this dropping passive hints around and hoping that they'll hear the hints. You've got to make sure that you ask specifically for what you want, because people that love you, whether it's your kid, whether it's your friend, whomever that wants to honor you, they want you to get what you want. They want you to feel special. And you're actually making their lives easier if you clearly communicate that to them. And instead of saying, for example, something like, well, if you think it would be a good idea, this might be an option, say, I would like to do this. How does that work for you? And something like, it would make me feel really special if we did this. Can we make that happen? All right. Another one is, well, what other tips do I have for you? I have lots of tips. I'm going off of the questions that I did for the interviews. Be specific and give options. For example, if you like physical gifts, then give 3 to 5 options of merchants or places that you know they would appreciate. I know for me, this is not related to being a mom, but when my husband and I were, before we were engaged and we were talking about getting engaged, I really wanted him to get me the best ring, as we all do if we're looking to get married. And I want it, most of us. Okay, everybody's different. I'd say I'm not unusual when I say I really want to get the best ring. But here's the thing. He used a great analogy with me. He said, Karen, picking out a ring for you is like you picking out a new computer for me. And when he said that, I totally got it. I thought, oh my gosh, I would have no idea what to choose for you with all of the bells and whistles that you like to do and add on to computer tech stuff, all that stuff. And that was very helpful. And what I ended up doing is I gave him several options, probably way more than he would have appreciated. And he got me the greatest ring. And what was really funny about it is that when he proposed to me and it was by moonlight, and I thought, oh, how did you pick out this ring? It's beautiful. And he said, it's the first option that you gave me. I went back to the first one that you said you loved. So I had to laugh at that. And it was even more beautiful in person. But that's such an example, because I can relate to any mom that feels like, well, you just want to be surprised. But we can't rely on all that, putting all that responsibility on someone when they don't really know perhaps what we exactly want unless we tell them. And so that's what I would suggest. The other thing is, for example, let's say you want to go to a restaurant, give the name of a place or give a few different names of places where you say, I would love to go to any of these places. Another option would be create a list of responsibilities you don't want to do that day and have other people take care of them for you. I think whether you have young kids or whether you have adult kids, maybe you want them all near you in the house. I'm guessing that's probably more adult kids that have come back. But you also don't want to be in the kitchen all day cooking, probably. Well, it depends on the person, but I'm guessing that you don't. And that would be something to say, hey, I want everybody to come home and I'm really excited about that, but please work out how you're going to cook and clean while I enjoy a hot bath and then have dinner with you, whatever it might be that you're looking for. If you have little kids, maybe you do want to be alone that day and you need a break. Moms need a break. Just like on the airplane, you've got to put on your own oxygen mask first before you can serve others. Same thing. So ask for what you want, and I'm going to guess you're going to get it. Much more chance of doing that if you ask. Here are my tips for family members. Ask the mom in your life what she wants and what would make her feel truly celebrated. And be careful of not imposing what you think she wants and what would be more convenient for you, perhaps. But remember, it's not about you, it's really about her. And you might feel hurt, you might feel disappointed. And this could be on both sides of the coin for the moms as well as the people wanting to honor the moms. Keep in mind, we can't control what other people are going to feel or do. And sometimes, sadly, these disappointments are going to happen either way. But you'll definitely do any damage control by asking these questions in advance. And I'm laughing because I'm thinking back to when I was a little girl and my brother said, "Hey, what are you going to get mom?" And I said, "She wanted a strainer. I think I'm going to get her a strainer." And he said something like, "What about a scarf or something that she would enjoy for herself?" And honestly, that had never occurred to me because I was so used to seeing her in the kitchen. And that's, boy, talk about gender roles right there. But she was talking about how she would really love to get this new colander. And so the idea of her enjoying something outside of a kitchen appliance was news for me. And wow, what a powerful lesson that my brother taught me simply by inviting me into thinking about giving her something different. So this leads me to my last tip, which is that some moms, not this is not the tip, but this is the thing that I want to bring up first. Some moms may feel selfish asking for what they want. And what I want to say is this is the most powerful thing that you could do is to ask for what you want, because you're setting an example that will equip your kids for a lifetime. We have already fought so much related to gender roles in the fact that so much of our lives are influenced because we don't ask for what we want. We don't speak up. This is still a big problem for a lot of women. And if you're setting an example about speaking up and advocating for yourself by asking for what you want on Mother's Day, and frankly, any other time of the year, you are making a huge difference. Statistically, there are 73 million children under the age of 18 in our population in the US that American moms are influencing. So make sure that you don't become a statistic of having a child who is not equipped to know how to speak up because she feels like she has to do what everybody else wants and she can't bother people. Please, please, please avoid that. I grew up with a mom who was volunteering for lots of different organizations. And half the time, what I heard her say on the phone, more than half probably, the first sentence out of her mouth was, "Hi, so and so." She would say, I'm sorry, I'm thinking about Danny, you can edit that part out. I'm sorry. She would call and say, "Hi, Joan," for example. "I'm sorry to bother you," but that was always the first question or the first thought out of her mind. And let me stop again. That was always the first thing out of her mouth. We want to avoid that. So you want to make sure that you set an example about speaking up and standing up for yourself, as well as advocating for yourself. Those are my tips for Mother's Day. And I know it might be a little bit late by the time you get this or hear this, but you never know. First of all, if you're getting this when it comes out, you've still got a day or two to be able to say something, or you can course correct during the day. You can say, "Hey, you know what? This isn't quite turning out to be how I had hoped. Can we rewind and do a do-over?" What's wrong with that? There's always opportunity. Keep in mind, the people in your life want to celebrate you. That is it for me, folks. Keep in mind for you, first of all, I hope you have a wonderful Mother's Day and whatever you're celebrating today. And I also want to give a special shout out to those single moms who have such a tremendous workload on top of everything that they're dealing with. I just thank you for all that you do. And I also want to give a shout out to those who wanted to be moms and weren't able to be moms. I always thought I would have 3 or 4 kids running around, and that didn't work out for me. So now I have 2 cats. But I chuckle there, and yet at the same time, I recognize that this can be a really hard holiday for a lot of women. So I'm sending all of my love to you and want to say, please have a wonderful time. Have a great time being celebrated. And at the end of the day, it is your day. So if others don't get or do for you what you want, do it for yourself. Do it for yourself. And in other news, if you're interested in having a speaker come to your organization to talk about how to get what you want, some negotiation techniques, as well as how to communicate with confidence, I would love to be introduced. I also have a social initiative now that is formally in play called 10 and 10, Eradicating Self-Doubt in 10 million women in the next 10 years. If you know anybody in an organization, I would love to talk with them. There are 3 ways to get involved as an ambassador to help elevate and advance women in leadership. Have a wonderful rest of your day, and hello and happy Mother's Day to everybody. And that's a wrap of another episode of Ignite Your Confidence. I'm your host, Karen Laus. Thank you so much for listening. If you loved today's episode, please subscribe and leave a review. It helps other people find the podcast faster, and it certainly helps me. If you're interested in more tips and tools around confidence, please join me over in my Facebook group called Ignite Your Confidence with Karen Laus. Remember, you too can stand out with unshakable confidence.